Joel Osteen is one of the most famous pastors in the world. His church, Lakewood Church in Houston, Texas, draws thousands of people every week, and his uplifting sermons reach millions more online. To many, he represents hope, positivity, and a modern approach to faith. But what if behind that polished image, there's something deeper that needs to be said? Something bold enough to shake the very foundations of his church? This is exactly what happened when I had the chance to speak directly to Joel Osteen. It wasn't an easy conversation. In fact, it sparked one of the most intense reactions I've ever seen from a religious leader. The thing I told him wasn't just criticism. It was a challenge, a call for honesty that hit him where it mattered most. Picture this: a calm room filled with eager listeners, all waiting to hear the latest from the famous pastor. Then suddenly, I stand up and say something that cuts through the usual praise and applause. The words were simple but powerful, and they exposed uncomfortable truths about the church's message and its impact. Many people see Joel Osteen's sermons as uplifting and inspiring, but I told him there's a risk of sugarcoating real problems, of turning faith into a kind of feel-good club that ignores the hard realities people face. I challenged the church to be more than just a source of comfort, to be a force for real change and accountability. Right then, you could see the atmosphere shift. Some nodded quietly, while others looked shocked. But what really made the moment unforgettable was Joel's reaction. It wasn't the polite disagreement you might expect. Instead, it was clear that my words hit a nerve, and the tension in the room grew. So what exactly did I say to Joel Osteen? And why did it make him so mad? In the next part, I'll share the details of that conversation, the words that sparked a powerful confrontation and revealed deep divisions about faith, truth, and leadership. After setting the stage with that intense moment of confrontation in part 1, now let's dive deep into what I actually told Joel Osteen. Words that challenged not just him, but the entire structure and message of his church. Joel Osteen is well known for preaching positivity, hope, and success through faith. His sermons are polished, uplifting, and designed to inspire people to overcome their struggles. But in my conversation with him, I pointed out something important. There's a fine line between inspiring hope and ignoring reality. I told Joel that while his church preaches prosperity and blessings, it sometimes glosses over the very real suffering and injustice many people face. The world is full of pain, poverty, addiction, broken families, racism, and a church's role isn't just to make people feel good, but to confront those challenges head-on. I told him his sermons risked turning faith into a kind of feel-good, self-help group, where people are encouraged to only see the bright side without dealing with the darkness. That wasn't an easy message to deliver, especially in a room full of his supporters. But I was clear. Faith should be about truth, even when it's uncomfortable. People don't just need empty encouragement. They need guidance that acknowledges their struggles and calls them to action. I explained that many critics feel Joel's church focuses too much on individual success and personal blessings, while neglecting broader social issues like poverty, racial injustice, and systemic inequality. I challenged him to use his platform not just to promise prosperity, but to promote justice and compassion for those who are often forgotten. During the conversation, I referenced examples from the Bible where prophets called out hypocrisy and demanded real change, not just empty words. I said, if the church becomes a place where only easy answers and feel-good messages are offered, it risks losing its power to transform lives and society. Joel listened, but his body language started to change. He looked less open and more defensive. Some in the audience shifted uncomfortably, sensing the tension building. It was clear that my words were striking a nerve. I pushed further. I said, Joel, the message of faith isn't just about personal blessings. It's about standing up for the oppressed, challenging injustice, and being willing to face hard truths. Your church has the power to lead that change, but it has to be willing to go beyond comfort. That's when things took a sharper turn. Joel's reaction became more intense. his voice raised slightly, and he defended his ministry's approach. He argued that positivity and hope are exactly what people need in dark times. I didn't disagree, but I insisted that hope without truth and accountability is incomplete. In that moment, the room felt like it was holding its breath. Supporters who admired Joel were torn between loyalty and the undeniable truth of the points being made. Others began to nod quietly, appreciating the honesty. As the debate continued, I made a point about humility, how leaders like Joel must be willing to listen, to reflect, and to accept criticism, especially when it comes from a place of genuine concern. I reminded everyone that faith is strongest when it's honest. This confrontation wasn't just about me and Joel Osteen. It represented a larger struggle within many faith communities, between comfort and challenge, between easy answers and difficult truths. By the end of the conversation, the tension remained thick in the air, but there was also a sense that something important had been said. Joel may have been mad, but the discussion opened a door for deeper reflection about what faith and leadership should really mean. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt disappointed by a spiritual leader who seemed to avoid the tough issues? Do you believe churches should challenge social injustices more directly? Comment below with your thoughts and the city or country you're watching from. Your voice matters in this conversation. After I laid out my honest and challenging message about Joel Osteen's church, the atmosphere in the room shifted dramatically. What had started as a calm and respectful conversation quickly became tense and charged with emotion. Joel's reaction was more than just disagreement. It was clear that my words had struck a raw nerve. At first, Joel tried to maintain his composure. He smiled politely and responded with a measured tone, emphasizing that his church's mission was to bring hope and encouragement to people. He spoke about how faith can uplift individuals and help them overcome life's struggles through positivity and belief in blessings. But as I pressed on, pointing out that hope without accountability and truth can be hollow, his demeanor changed. The polite smile faded. His voice grew firmer, and the calm in the room started to dissipate. Joel looked directly at me and said, "I respect your opinion, but I believe the message of hope and prosperity is what people need right now. They come to our church looking for encouragement, not confrontation." I understood his point, but I knew that avoiding difficult truths can sometimes be a disservice to those who rely on spiritual guidance. So I calmly replied, "Encouragement is important, but it cannot come at the cost of ignoring injustice and pain. If a church only tells people they will be blessed, but doesn't prepare them to face life's real challenges, are we truly helping?" The audience was visibly divided. Some nodded in agreement with me, others whispered in defense of Joel, and a few looked uncomfortable, unsure how to react. His supporters were protective of his message and legacy, while others welcomed a more critical perspective. The tension in the room was not just about a disagreement on theology or preaching style. It reflected a deeper conflict within faith communities about what the role of the church should be. Meanwhile, Joel's family and close followers sat quietly, but with visible concern. His wife, often the voice of calm and support, seemed uneasy with the growing discord. Some whispered among themselves, urging him to de-escalate the situation. But Joel, clearly frustrated, was unwilling to back down entirely. I noticed how the dynamic was shifting. What was meant to be a constructive dialogue was starting to feel like a confrontation. But I remained firm, believing that truth requires courage, even if it's uncomfortable. During this exchange, I made a point to emphasize respect and humility. "No one is above criticism," I said, "especially those who lead millions. If we can't hold our leaders accountable, how can we expect real change?" At that moment, a few attendees began recording the exchange on their phones. Social media was about to catch wind of this confrontation, and the stakes suddenly felt higher. Despite the rising tension, I continued to speak calmly and respectfully, knowing that losing my temper would only distract from the message. My goal was not to attack Joel personally, but to challenge the system and provoke honest reflection. As the conversation progressed, some supporters began to question their own assumptions. The idea that faith could be used as a shield from real-world problems didn't sit well with everyone. More than one person whispered, "Maybe he has a point." I also engaged the audience directly, asking, "What do you think? Should churches focus only on comfort, or do they have a responsibility to confront injustice?" The responses were mixed, but many expressed a desire for a more balanced approach, one that combines hope with accountability. By the end of Part 3, it was clear that this was not just a clash of ideas, but a pivotal moment in the conversation about faith, leadership, and truth. The room was charged, the audience divided, and the question remained: can faith leaders like Joel Osteen embrace criticism without anger? Can they balance hope with honesty? What would you do if you were in Joel's shoes? Would you welcome this kind of criticism or feel threatened by it? Share your thoughts in the comments below and tell us where you're watching from. Your city and country. As the tension between me and Joel Osteen reached a boiling point, something unexpected happened that shifted the entire atmosphere and brought a new layer of complexity to the story. Picture this. While the debate was still heating up, a voice from the crowd suddenly broke through the murmurs. "Wait, isn't that Manny Pacquiao standing there?" someone whispered. Then others began to realize it too. For those unfamiliar, Manny Pacquiao is not just a legendary boxer. He's also a senator, philanthropist, and a symbol of humility and resilience. His story is one of overcoming adversity with dignity and grace. The crowd's realization spread like wildfire. Suddenly, people were whispering, pointing discreetly, and casting curious glances. But here's the catch. Joel Osteen himself didn't seem to know who he was confronting. Despite the growing buzz, Joel continued to defend his stance, unaware that Manny Pacquiao, the very embodiment of courage and integrity, was present. This dramatic irony added a thick layer of suspense. The audience knew something that Joel did not, and that created an electrifying tension in the room. Some bystanders tried to alert Joel quietly, but he brushed it off, caught up in the argument. Meanwhile, Manny remained composed and humble, choosing not to use his fame as leverage. Instead of boasting or intimidating, he simply stood firm, letting his presence speak volumes. His calmness contrasted sharply with the escalating tension between Joel and me. This moment highlighted something powerful: humility in the face of confrontation and strength without aggression. Manny's quiet dignity became a silent rebuke to the fiery debate unfolding on stage. The whispers grew louder as people shared their admiration for Manny's courage. Some in the audience who had been hesitant to question Joel now felt empowered. They began to see the conversation not just as a clash of ideas, but as a reflection of deeper issues around respect, leadership, and truth. Joel, still unaware of Manny's identity, continued to argue passionately. He reiterated his belief that faith should inspire hope and positivity, not discomfort or confrontation. But the crowd's shifting mood signaled that something had changed. This scene was a perfect example of how fame and humility can intersect. Manny didn't need to assert his status. His integrity was evident simply by standing firm and speaking truth with calm confidence. The moment also served as a metaphor for many situations where powerful leaders fail to recognize the true strength of those who challenge them. Manny's presence was a reminder that real power comes not from titles or fame, but from character and courage. As the crowd's energy shifted, some people started to whisper about how Manny's example should inspire faith leaders to rethink their approach. Perhaps it was time to balance hope with honesty, encouragement with accountability. The tension was palpable. Joel's arguments seemed less convincing in the face of Manny's silent strength. The room was filled with anticipation. What would happen when Joel finally learned who he was debating? Have you ever been in a situation where someone's true identity or background completely changed how people reacted to them? Share your story in the comments, along with where you're watching from. Do you think humility or fame carries more influence in tough conversations? The atmosphere in the room was thick with tension, but Manny Pacquiao remained calm and collected, embodying a quiet strength that demanded respect. Despite Joel Osteen's firm stance on promoting positivity and hope, Manny knew this moment required more than just encouragement. It called for courage and truth. Finally, Manny decided it was time to speak up. With a steady voice that commanded attention, Manny addressed Joel and the audience directly. Faith is not just about blessings and prosperity, he began. It's about standing up for what is right, even when it's difficult. It's about acknowledging the pain and injustice around us and working together to make a difference. The crowd hushed, captivated by Manny's words. His tone was calm but firm, and each sentence carried weight. He wasn't angry or confrontational. Instead, He spoke with the conviction of someone who had faced hardship and come through it with grace. Manny continued, "Too often, people are told to only focus on the positive, to ignore the challenges they face. But faith should not be a way to escape reality. It should be a force to change it. We need churches that don't just comfort the comfortable, but stand with the oppressed." He paused, letting the message sink in. The audience began to feel the power of his words. Some nodded in agreement, others looked thoughtful, and a few whispered among themselves, recognizing the depth of what was being said. Turning back to Joel, Manny said, "Your church has a huge platform. You have the ability to inspire millions, but with that power comes responsibility. It's not enough to promise blessings if we ignore the struggles of those who don't receive them." This was a pivotal moment. Joel, confronted with Manny's calm yet unwavering challenge, started to lose the firm footing he had maintained earlier. His earlier confidence wavered as Manny's words exposed the cracks in the overly polished message of prosperity. Manny's approach was different from the usual criticism Joel might have faced. There was no attack, no personal insult, just a clear, respectful call for deeper honesty and action. This left the room in a tense silence. The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some admired Manny's courage. Others were unsure how to react to the challenge to their familiar faith narrative. Manny finished by emphasizing humility and unity. "We must remember that faith is strongest when it is honest and humble. We are all human, all flawed, and all in need of grace. But grace also calls us to justice." The silence that followed was heavy, but it was filled with potential. Potential for change, for dialogue, and for a more authentic expression of faith. In this moment, Manny wasn't just a famous athlete or a senator. He was a voice for those who feel unheard, a reminder that faith must engage with the world's realities, not hide from them. What do you think about Manny's message? Should churches focus more on social justice alongside personal faith? Comment below and tell us your city and country. Your opinion can help shape this important conversation. The moment everyone had been waiting for finally arrived. Just as Manny Pacquiao had finished his powerful speech challenging Joel Osteen's approach, a quiet but unmistakable voice rose from the crowd. "That's Manny Pacquiao, the boxer, senator, and champion." The revelation spread instantly. Phones were raised higher, whispers turned into excited murmurs, and a wave of recognition rippled through the audience. People who had been hesitant to question the status quo now felt emboldened by Manny's presence and words. Joel Osteen, who until then had been fully engaged in defending his church's message, suddenly paused. His expression shifted from confident to surprised, and then a subtle flicker of embarrassment. It was clear he hadn't expected to be confronted by someone of Manny's stature and integrity. This was a turning point. The power dynamic in the room changed instantly. As the crowd realized who Manny was, they began to cheer, applauding his courage and humility. But Manny didn't take this moment to gloat or assert dominance. Instead, he used the spotlight to reinforce a deeper message, one about respect, equality, and true leadership. He calmly said, "I stand here not as a champion of titles, but as a champion of truth and justice. We all have a responsibility to uplift one another, to confront injustice, and to lead with humility." The atmosphere shifted from confrontation to reflection. The cheers were not just for Manny's fame, but for the integrity and sincerity he had shown throughout the entire exchange. Joel, now visibly humbled, nodded slowly. While he didn't openly admit defeat, there was an unmistakable acknowledgement that the conversation had touched something important, something beyond the usual discourse. This moment became a powerful lesson on the importance of leadership rooted in accountability. Manny's calm but commanding presence reminded everyone that true respect is earned through honesty and courage, not just popularity or influence. Beyond the immediate room, the story began to spread quickly. People shared clips, posts, and comments online. The incident went viral on social media platforms, sparking widespread discussion about the role of faith leaders and the need for churches to engage more deeply with social justice and truth. The reaction was overwhelming. Thousands praised Manny for his dignity and bravery. Many called for more transparency and humility from influential figures, especially those in positions of spiritual authority. Meanwhile, the spotlight on Joel Osteen intensified. Questions were raised about whether his church would reconsider its approach, and some critics demanded accountability for ignoring harder truths. But Manny remained focused on the bigger picture. He used the viral moment not for personal gain, but to encourage unity and progress. "Let this be a reminder," he said in interviews, "that respect and equality must be at the heart of all our actions. No one should be judged by their status or appearance, and every voice deserves to be heard." This powerful message resonated worldwide, inspiring many to reflect on their own beliefs and the kind of leadership they want to support. What do you think about this moment when Manny's identity was revealed? Have you ever experienced a time when someone's true background changed how people treated them? How can respect and equality be better promoted in your community or faith group? Share your thoughts in your city or country below. Let's keep this important conversation going. The incident that unfolded between Manny Pacquiao and Joel Osteen quickly became much more than just a heated conversation. It became a powerful moment of reflection and change that resonated far beyond the room where it happened. As news of the confrontation spread, clips and highlights of Manny's calm but firm challenge went viral on social media. Millions of people around the world watched as Manny stood up for truth, humility, and justice. The story sparked conversations about the role of faith leaders and the need for churches to balance encouragement with accountability. People from different backgrounds, cultures, and faith traditions shared their own experiences of feeling overlooked or silenced by religious institutions. Manny's message gave voice to many who had longed for more honesty and integrity in spiritual leadership. Meanwhile, the pressure on Joel Osteen and his church intensified. Many viewers demanded that he address the concerns Manny raised and reconsider the church's approach to faith and social issues. Some critics called for more transparency and action from leaders who wield significant influence. Joel eventually responded publicly. While he expressed appreciation for the conversation, he acknowledged the need to listen more closely to voices calling for change. It was a rare moment of humility from one of the most prominent pastors in the world. But the real victory was not just about Joel's response. It was about the broader movement Manny's words ignited. Faith communities began to hold more open dialogues about justice, humility, and the challenges people face beyond prosperity preaching. Churches and religious groups started to rethink how they communicate their message, aiming to inspire hope while also confronting real-world struggles. Manny's example showed that courage and dignity could bring people together, even amid disagreement. For Manny himself, this moment was more than a viral story. It was a chance to highlight the values he stands for: respect, equality, and courage in the face of adversity. He continued to speak out on these issues, encouraging others to do the same in their own communities. Final call to action. If you believe that no one should be judged by their appearance or status, and that faith should include truth and justice, type respect in the comments below. Share this video to spread the message, and don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories like this one. Together, we can build a world where humility and courage lead the way, and where every voice is heard and valued.